All right, so in this video, we're going to be talking about the potential relocation chances of Salt Lake City. They submitted their name into the ring earlier this year in April as a potential expansion option. Focus groups test the waters for Major League Baseball in Salt Lake City. That article coming out in July, and we did receive the early concept models for a potential stadium. Very, very bland. I'm sure they're going to come out with more updates of an actual stadium, but you can see the rough outline of it with the beautiful backdrop of the mountain and also the smokestacks, which I kind of like. I mean, it's hard to really gauge just in a rendering, but the idea of a home run getting hit, seeing the mountains in the background with the smokestacks, that is something we don't see with any other MLB ballpark, so they would have a nice advantage in terms of the backdrop, and you can see where the location of it would be located at the Power District in comparison to where downtown Salt Lake City is. The airport kind of right in between. Very good location in terms of accessibility with both the airport and both downtown, and then the University of Utah on the far end. But just getting into the idea, every expansion city has one of these groups. This is called Big League Utah. Big League Utah, which is a broad-based community coalition, believes Utah is the future of America's pastime. Like baseball's brightest stars, Utah is a five-tool player for its growth, economy, location, sports culture, and quality of life. The coalition has targeted a shovel-ready site for a new MLB ballpark at the 100-acre Rocky Mountain Power District in Salt Lake City. And where the ballpark would be right now, I do believe, is just a bunch of parking lots and area that's really not used. So when it comes to location, one of the big problems right now with Las Vegas is that small 9-acre lot. Salt Lake City would not have that problem at all with the stadium being located in between downtown and also the airport, and there's around 30 acres ready to go with the stadium facing the mountains and also those big three smokestacks you can see there. That's April 12th. So basically right at the start of the 2023 MLB season, Salt Lake Group comes out and joins on the MLB expansion chase. The first thing I'm going to show before I really dive into this is just the overall odds, and you can see how MLB expansion is setting up. Nashville has a great chance to get an expansion team if they don't get the Rays in a relocation scenario, but the thought process is that MLB would also want a West Coast, maybe Mountain Time Zone or Western Time Zone team. And you can see Salt Lake City, at least according to these odds that came out back in July, they are positioned very nicely at around plus 350. The next closest team located towards the western side of the United States is Portland at around plus 650, and Salt Lake City doesn't have the crime issue that Portland has. Also, I think another potential hurdle Salt Lake City might face is a San Antonio or another Texas-based expansion team, maybe also Montreal, but I am not very high on Montreal's chances to get an expansion team right now when it comes to MLB. It just doesn't seem like much is happening there, so I would say Salt Lake City, in terms of the options, is a very high chance of really being in the mix for an expansion team. If Nashville gets one of them, you could look at Salt Lake City or Portland getting the other. And when you compare Salt Lake City to the other potential expansion cities, Mexico City, you're just going to have to throw out. There's no way we could have competitive baseball at that high of an altitude. You could technically put the stadium at Monterey, but I believe the crime is worse. So I don't see Mexico getting an MLB team. Obviously, they've got a huge population in comparison to these other cities, but I would mainly compare Salt Lake City to, Montreal, Nashville, Portland, and you can see its market size in comparison to Portland, a little bit lower, but nothing crazy. It's not like Portland blows it out of the water. Nashville is right on par with it. Montreal is significantly bigger, but you also have to remember there was a team already in Montreal. They ended up averaging around 4,000 fans and leaving, so MLB has a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to that. I think it compares favorably when you factor in all the different economic things and also the population growth in comparison to Portland, Oregon. This was another stadium that came out a few years ago. I'm guessing it's just a shell model to show how it would look at the power district. So this was the, original plan. You can see downtown Salt Lake City, also in between the airport, kind of the setup there in terms of that. And then Salt Lake City's location might give it an edge in terms of MLB expansion. By the numbers, Vegas would be Seattle's nearest MLB franchise at 420 miles. Denver is more than 500 miles away. Portland is 175 miles from Seattle. Utah also has its own cultural identity, certainly distinct from Las Vegas. That might help it out. It's really sort of a more untapped market. By contrast, Portland shares Seattle's Pacific Northwest identity, while Charlotte and Nashville could compete with Atlanta for Southern fans' loyalty. Yeah, so Charlotte and Nashville, both of them, they're not getting a team. It's going to be one or the other. There is the idea that, there's already a ton of Atlanta Braves fans. Like, basically the entire SEC country is Atlanta Braves fans because that's the only MLB team. If you throw another team down there, that's going to split them a little bit. But I do think with Nashville and how much it's grown, the fact that they're building a new NFL stadium, that could help them get that. They are a growing economy right now. In terms of stadium plans, I think it's the best one, or at worst rivals the other ones in terms of their current plan. If the A's don't move to Vegas as expected, MLB would probably want to expand there instead of Salt Lake. Yeah, if the A's, for whatever reason, stay in Oakland and do the Howard Terminal thing, which I would say is less than a 5% chance, but if that happens, MLB will certainly expand, and I think the options would be obvious. It would be Nashville and Vegas, but the expectation is Vegas will get the A's, which will open up an expansion opportunity when they go to 32 teams. If Nashville is one of them, you would figure Salt Lake City could potentially be the other one if it does open up. While Salt Lake City's population estimates rank it below existing MLB markets, neither the city itself nor the federally defined metropolitan statistical area paints a complete picture. The population is around 2.7 million people, nearly all of whom live within an hour of the proposed stadium site on North Temple. That makes it larger than existing pro baseball markets in Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. So this is definitely smaller in terms of population, but it's not the worst. And we've even seen cities like Milwaukee be fine when it comes to attendance, but when it comes like TV market, you're really splitting hairs because all of these cities aren't great. Las Vegas, we all know they have a terrible TV market. That's not the point of getting in there. But also like Nashville and Portland, it's not like they're going to blow you out of the water. I mean, Mexico City certainly will, but I just don't think they can facilitate a team down there. So I would say right now Salt Lake City is positioned relatively nicely to possibly get a team. You also have to look at the current existing professional sports franchise there, the Utah Jazz, who going into last season, everyone thought was going to tank and really play bad, possibly get the number 1 overall pick, try and draft Victor Wembanyama. Now, they were a little bit better, but still, you take a look at the Utah Jazz in terms of attendance. They sold out every single game. They had 100% attendance, around 18,000 fans. Just because of how NBA attendance works, they were ranked 13th because the arenas are a lot smaller. But still, them selling out every game with a team that theoretically was supposed to be tanking. They trade away Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. That's pretty good in terms of the fan base sticking by them and baseline averaging 18,000 fans, because we have MLB teams right now. Now, I will say it is different. With NBA, you have a controlled environment. It is a dome. With MLB, there's probably going to be some colder games. We've seen with Colorado, it seems like every April, there's a weekend in Colorado where it snows right when the games are happening, and that really affects the attendance. But still, Utah, I think, would be a very mild, good location for a fine, obviously, outdoor ballpark with a backdrop of the mountains. The summers would be beautiful. I mean, this year, we're dealing with a heat dome, so it's really hot in those areas, but more times than not, you're talking about 72 degrees towards 8 o'clock at night. Very, very nice in Salt Lake City. So I think it could certainly work. I think it would be a hit. They would have a very nice attendance, maybe similar to Milwaukee's attendance. And you could say, well, Milwaukee's dealing with potential relocation, but it's not because of their attendance. And it's not even really because, well, I guess it is because of their market size. You know, they don't want to pay the renovations for the stadium. But this could be a spot where I really think Salt Lake City's a better location than Portland. I will say the thing with the Portland proposal, their stadium district is a lot more planned out. The renderings are a lot more impressive than Salt Lake City. That is undeniable. And, you know, we'll have to see if Salt Lake City comes out with more renderings, more details. Portland recently dropped new renderings about a month and a half ago, and it's fully outlined on their entire district that they want to build. Salt Lake City, it's just some weird, smaller ballpark that looks like it seats about 30,000 people. So a lot of unknowns when it comes to this project, but I would say Salt Lake City is one of, if not the top contenders for an MLB expansion team if they want to go one on the eastern side of the United States and then one on the West Coast. They want to go two different time zones and really even it out. I could see this being a legitimate option, but we'll have to see. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.